kids! Welcome to Storizo, where magical stories begins.
What really happened to the lost puppy of Amberleaf Avenue? Let's find out. Once upon a time, nestled between the hills of gold and the valleys of green, there was a place called Amberleaf Avenue, a street of whimsical houses where the trees always glowed like embers in the morning sun. There lived Mama Cleo, a calico cat of immense kindness. With her gold spectacles and her lavender scarf, she was the heart of every garden and the keeper of every secret. And Papa Barnaby, a gray tabby of great dignity. In his emerald bow tie and sturdy leather satchel, he walked with a steady paw and a heart of pure gold. Along with them were the twins, Toby and Pip, two ginger kittens who never went anywhere without a playful pounce and a curious twitch of their whiskers. Their days were a song of happy purrs and endless games of tag. Life was simple, safe, and filled with the laughter of the wind through the autumn leaves. In the Whisker Wag cottage, warm tea and soft naps were the rule. It was a world of comfort, where the only thing that changed was the color of the sky. But even the most beautiful songs have a sudden change in melody. As the birds flew across the golden sunset, life was preparing to play a brand new note. Mama Cleo marked her calendar with a steady hand. It was Friday. A Friday that Amberleaf Avenue and the family would never, ever forget. By evening, the golden sun was a distant memory. The sky over Amberleaf Avenue turned the color of bruised plums, and the rain began to fall, not in a drizzle, but in a heavy, rhythmic roar that washed the streets in silver. The family's ruby-red car cut through the gloom, its headlights twin beams of light searching for the way home. Inside, the wipers hummed a steady swish, swish against the glass, keeping time with the beating heart of the storm. Mama Cleo leaned her head against the window, her gold spectacles reflecting the flickering street lamps. She watched the water rush down the gutters, feeling a strange, heavy silence settle over the car, the kind of silence that usually comes before a great change. Even Toby and Pip were still. They sat quietly, watching the world outside turn into a blurry, watery dream, where the familiar houses looked like giants in the mist. As they rounded the final bend toward the Whisker Wag cottage, Papa Barnaby pressed the brakes. There, huddled under the leaning lamppost on the corner, was a shadow that did not belong in the rain. It was a cardboard box, soaked to its core and shaking in the wind. It sat alone on the cold pavement, a forgotten thing in a world that had gone indoors to stay dry and safe. Before Papa could speak, Mama Cleo was out in the storm. Her lavender scarf whipped around her neck like a flag as she moved toward the box, her heart beating faster with every splashing step. She reached out a trembling paw and pulled back the damp, heavy paper flap. The mystery of the storm was finally revealed. And Amberleaf Avenue would never be the same again. As the heavy paper flap fell away, the mystery of the storm was finally revealed. Inside was a tiny, shivering puppy, a golden retriever with eyes that held the weight of 1,000 rainy nights. He was not entirely alone, for around his neck he wore a single gold heart locket. It glinted against his damp fur, a silent promise of a story yet to be told. Mama Cleo didn't hesitate. She reached into the cold shadows and lifted the wet puppy into her arms. "Oh, you poor thing," she whispered, her voice a warm blanket against the wind. She shielded him from the storm, standing tall against the rain. In that moment, the umbrella was more than a shelter. It was a promise of protection. With gentle paws, she unwrapped her own lavender silk scarf and bundled him tight. The scent of lavender replaced the smell of rain, and for the first time, the puppy stopped shaking. Back in the car, Toby and Pip watched with wide-eyed wonder from the back seat. Their newest passenger was small and golden, and he carried the magic of a miracle with him. Suddenly, a tiny, rough tongue reached out. A single lick to Mama's nose said thank you more clearly than any words. Behind her gold spectacles, Mama's eyes filled with tears of joy. The ruby-red car pulled away, its taillights fading into the rainy night. The storm still roared outside, but inside the car, the lost puppy was finally, truly, safe at last. The ruby-red car splashed to a halt outside the glowing blue sign of the Paws and Purrs clinic. In the quiet of the night, they rushed inside, seeking help for the little traveler they had found in the rain. Dr. Whiskers, a white cat with a very wise face, began his examination. With gentle paws and a thoughtful hum, he gave the puppy a thorough check, from his cold nose to his white-tipped toes. As the warmth of the clinic seeped into his fur, a wonderful thing happened. The puppy's tail began to wag, thumping rhythmically against the exam table. He was a brave, strong little fellow indeed. As the doctor reached for his pen, the family made a big decision. On the official health chart, in neat, bold letters, they decided to call him Bobo. To celebrate his new name, Dr. Whiskers offered a special treat. Bobo's eyes went wide. It turned out the little pup had a very big appetite. Mama Cleo and Papa Cat listened closely as the doctor shared his report. He tucked his stethoscope away and smiled. "He is healthy," said the doctor. "He just needs plenty of love." The kittens couldn't contain their joy any longer. Toby and Pip cheered for their new brother, and Bobo jumped straight into their paws, a jumble of ginger fur and golden wagging. As the family walked back to the car, they noticed the rain had finally stopped, and the stars had come out to watch. A new life was beginning for Bobo, and for all of Amberleaf Avenue. Bobo tried his very best to be a cat. He practiced his pounces and his silent stalks, though his big puppy paws usually ended in a clumsy, happy tumble. When the lessons were over, the three siblings napped together on a sunny rug, drifting off as the golden sun warmed their fur and filled the room with peace. One afternoon, Bobo looked into the hallway mirror and tried his hardest to purr. But out came a happy little bark instead. He was finding his own voice, one woof at a time. With some glitter, cardboard, and a lot of glue, a brand new tradition was created. The official Meow-Bark Club was born, and everyone was invited. From that day on, everywhere they went together. A tiny parade of paws marching in a line through the tall garden grass of Amberleaf Avenue. Papa Barnaby even took the pup under his wing, patiently showing him the proper way to use a scratching post, even if Bobo thought it was a giant chew toy. But even in the middle of the fun, the gold locket glinted in the sunlight, a silent reminder that Bobo's story still held a secret waiting to be told. At breakfast time, Bobo took his place right beside his siblings. He wasn't a stranger anymore. He was a son, a brother, and a true part of the pack now. On Amberleaf Avenue, Friday nights were always the best. Papa Barnaby took his place at the grill, flipping burgers as the delicious, savory steam rose into the evening air. In the kitchen, Mama Cleo was busy with the final touches, carefully cutting the cheese into perfect little paw prints for their very special guests. It was the famous Hero Burger stack. No bones allowed, just extra cheese and a lot of love. Bobo sat at the table with a bright yellow bib, his tail thumping a happy rhythm against the chair. He simply couldn't wait another second for the feast to begin. Then, Papa gave the signal. 1, 2, 3... Bite! The whole family dove into their Friday night treat at the exact same time. Bobo let out a happy sigh, licking a stray dab of bright red ketchup right off his nose. For a little pup who came from a big storm, this was finally the true taste of home. Laughter filled the candlelit kitchen, echoing off the warm walls of the Whisker Wag cottage. In this house, every meal was a celebration of being together. Outside, the ruby-red car sat quietly under a blanket of silver stars. In that moment, on that quiet Friday night, everything was absolutely perfect.
Suddenly, a cold shadow fell. At the school gates, the mist swirled, carrying a scent from a long-forgotten past. 2 large golden retrievers appeared through the fog, standing still like statues as they watched the children at play. Their eyes were weary and filled with a fading hope. They had been searching for years through endless storms to find what they lost. In their paws was a tattered, muddy poster. The ink was faded, but the face was unmistakable. It was Bobo. Bobo stopped mid-run. A strange, familiar warmth washed over him. He didn't know how, but he knew them. His parents saw the gold locket glinting on his chest. They let out a broken whimper of pure, heart-shattering joy. Mama Cleo watched from a distance. In her eyes, a flicker of sadness met a surge of love. She knew his first family had finally found him. Slowly, Bobo began to walk toward them. His 2 worlds were meeting, and all of Amberleaf Avenue held its breath.
The big dogs nuzzled Bobo, their tails wagging like happy windmills. The long search was finally over, and the air was filled with joyful barks. Mama Cleo and Papa Cat walked over, meeting the golden parents with a respectful nod. 2 different worlds stood together in the morning light, but there was no goodbye. Instead, they made a beautiful choice. The 2 families would become one big, unusual pack. A new sign was hung on the garden gate. It read, "The Meow-Bark Mansion. All are welcome here." They spent their days chasing butterflies and sunbeams, a golden and ginger blur of pure, chaotic happiness. At dinner, the table grew longer and the house grew louder, filled with laughter, happy barks, and contented purrs. The gold locket now held a tiny picture of both families inside, shining brighter than ever against Bobo's fur. On Amberleaf Avenue, they proved that family isn't about who you look like, it's about who loves you. And they lived happily ever after.